Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. And for those of you here for the first time, my name is Melissa Reed and I am a mixed media intuitive artist from Pennsylvania. But today, instead of my normal mixed media piece, I am going to walk you through a project that I just did as a Christmas gift for someone, and I am making these little trout magnets. Now, you saw some little fish there that I had cut out of notebook paper. I just found some images online and I just did little rough sketches on the notebook paper, and I am now using a very high-tech cracker box that I dismantled to make templates that are going to be a little more sturdy to use against the clay. And that's what you see me doing in this process right here. I'm just tracing out around each of these images so that I can get something that's going to be a little more usable, and if I want to use these again, they'll hold up a little better than just pieces of paper. Now, as I said, I did sketch these myself, but if you don't feel confident in your abilities for sketching, you could absolutely print something out and cut it out and use it in that manner. So you can see there that I used my X-Acto knife to cut all of these out, and here they all are in chipboard form, and you can see the cracker box still on the back there. I'm a very big believer in using what you have around, and there is really no reason to go and buy things if you already have them. Okay, I have a few things in front of me here. This is the DOS air dry clay. I have a clay cutting tool and a piece of dowel rod that I'm using as a rolling pin because I do not have one for the studio, and again, why go and buy a piece of equipment when I have something that works just as well? If you don't have a dowel rod, a wine bottle or like a travel mug, anything will actually work for you here. So I'm taking some of that clay out, working it in my hands just a little bit and rolling it on the surface there. I'm using a piece of parchment paper just over a table that releases the clay very nicely. And I would say I rolled this to about maybe a quarter of an inch or slightly larger. I wanted it to be a little bit sturdy since they are going to be, grabbed and manipulated as their purpose. So just something that wasn't super flimsy and that might withhold a dropping if that happens. And I'm just using my cutting tool. And again, if you don't have a clay cutting tool, you can use a knife, like again, whatever you have, X-Acto knife, an old kitchen knife, whatever. Just once you use a kitchen tool as an art implement, just don't use it on food again because it will never be 100% food safe. Okay, so I've got my little image cut out there and I'm using a brush just to go around and smooth the sides out. Now, I will be sanding these once they're dry, but if I can give myself a little bit of a head start to not have to do all of that extra work, that's just what I'm doing there. You don't have to do that step, or you could just use a damp finger or, a sponge, whatever, again, you have laying around. You'll hear me say that over and over again because while it's a lot of fun to buy and accumulate art supplies, it's not always necessary. And if you can use what you have, I mean, why not? So I'm just repeating this process with all three of those. This will be fully dried in the next step, and I want to say I let that dry for maybe 2 days. Dry time is going to entirely depend upon the humidity in the air where you are. It is very dry here, and I definitely could have worked these after just 1 day, but you definitely want to let them dry for at least 24 hours. You'll be able to tell if they're dry because they become very bright white upon drying. And this is an old trick from my clay classes in college. If you touch it to your face and it is not cold any longer, you will then know that it is completely bone dry the whole way through. If it has a coldness to it, chances are there's still some moisture in there, and you want to let that get completely dried out before we move on to the next step. Okay, so at this point, everything has completely dried, and I am using some sandpaper just to knock down any bumps and make everything smooth. Now, this is 150 grit sandpaper. I've found that this is kind of perfect for being large enough to knock down anything that you want to get rid of, but fine enough to not gouge out extra scratches in the piece, and it just gives it a really nice smooth finish. It also doesn't get gunked up, the paper itself, as quick as a finer grain of paper would. And again, I'm going across every surface there and just making sure everything is smooth. A little tip for getting into tight spaces, as you can see, like between some of the fins in that, wrap your sandpaper around like a thin paintbrush or maybe like a bamboo skewer or something to get it in there, and you'll make yourself like a little sanding block. And it's going to be a lot easier to get that paper in there than just trying to use it, with your fingers trying to work in those tiny spaces. Now these are going to be primed with Liquitex gesso and then painted. So if the surface is not 100% completely smooth and pit free, the primer and the paint will help cover some of that up as well. And incidentally, I'm going to have everything that I'm using linked in the description. So if you are wondering where you can find these things, I will have most of those there for you. So now I'm just going in and retracing the sketch that I had onto there, redrawing that onto there just as a guideline for when I start my painting. This is not 100% necessary, but it does make everything a little bit easier when you're trying to find, the correct proportions and going in for your shading and things like that, just to give yourself some guidelines on there. So I'm just using a regular pencil. I think that's probably just a 2B pencil. And just going in and getting that sketch down. This part's going to take a minute or two, so while I am letting you watch me get these sketches on here, I do want to just say thank you all so much for all of the support lately. You guys have been great with the likes and the subscribes and the hypes. Really appreciate it. And if you like this video, please go ahead and do the same if you would. It helps me out so much. And I know I ask this every week, but this is how, unfortunately, the algorithm works. And if I don't have the support from wonderful people like you, it doesn't always get pushed out to more people. So yeah, thank you. Also, just to let you know, I do put out a new video every single Friday morning Eastern time. So if you're subscribed and you have your bell notifications set, you will be alerted of that. But if you don't, and just for your information, that is when I put the new videos out. So again, I was using images from the internet as guides for my sketch, and I'm going to use those same images as guides for my my painting process as well. So again, just like look at whatever you have and do your best to get it down there. And if you're, I'm sure most of you are at least somewhat interested in painting, or you probably wouldn't be here on my channel. So what I'm going to be doing for decoration on these is like nothing more than simple basic painting. I'm just using a little shading and color blending and mixing. Again, I'll have a list of all of the paint colors and everything that I'm going to be using. What I did first here, though, is when I had the rough sketches down, I went in and this was after also, I should say, I gessoed everything, primed it with Liquitex gesso, let it dry, and that's when I did the sketch. Now that that's all done, I'm coating the entire image in titanium white, and that's just to give it a background for me to work on. If you look at a trout, that is a color on them anyway, and it worked out really well. That's giving me a base, and I'm going to be putting all of my other colors on top of that. And there they are with the first coat done. Now comes the fun part, the color mixing. So I've got some burnt sienna there, and I'm mixing a little bit of my Liquitex medium in with that, my acrylic media. That is it's going to give me like a glaze. It makes the colors very translucent. Now, the burnt umber is already pretty translucent, but I wanted it even more so because I want to be able to see the color underneath, but still kind of have that kind of glaze or cast to it. So you'll see me use that with most of these layers. It almost gives a watercolor appearance to your acrylics, so you can still see through them and get that kind of ethereal sort of look. So if you're ever trying to get that with your acrylics, just mix a little of your media in and that will achieve that for you. I've also mixed some sap green in with that burnt umber to create that like olive color, and again added more of the matte medium in there as well. And now this is just simply a painting project from this point. And in the interest of time for the video, I am only going to show me painting this first one, and then I'll show you the other ones finished at the end. Now, rainbow trout are known for the pink stripe down their middle, and I've got some Liquitex Basics alizarin crimson, and I mixed that again with the matte medium, and that's making a nice kind of red glaze, reddish pink glaze that's going to go down the center there. And I'm just using a variety of brushes. Again, whatever you have is going to be fine. You will make it work. That is a little bit more of the burnt sienna, and I'm just going back and forth and creating shading once I've got the basic colors down there. This is nothing more than just basic painting. I'll use darker colors down at the bottom to show shadows of the underneath and like on the where the fins meet the body. And basically I just keep going at this rate until I am happy with everything. I do take breaks in this painting process to allow some of the layers to dry. It does dry pretty quickly because this is acrylic paint mixed with acrylic media and also watered down. So, and as I said, it's really dry in my house. So I don't need to let a lot of dry time between the layers, but some of it, if it was starting to muddy up or get a little bit too blended in areas where I really didn't want that, I would let it dry. Or if I specifically wanted another visible layer on top and to not blend at all, then I let that dry out. But again, it doesn't take very long for that to happen at all. For these darker shadows, I added a little bit of Payne's Gray into some of that sap green and the burnt umber, and that's giving me a nice little shadow look. And for the areas that I wanted to be the darkest of all, I went in basically with straight Payne's Gray, and I know that has a little bit of a blue cast to it, but it worked out really well for this because it also is a transparent color, and it worked really well with the transparency that I have going on there with all of the other paint. Now, at first, I started going around all of the areas with the Payne's Gray as kind of like an outline, but ultimately, I knew I was going to end up using a black Posca pen. I just got a new set of black Posca pens because I realized that all of my black ones were completely used up. So I bought a set on Amazon, and I will have that linked in the description for you. And the one I ended up using for this outlining process, let me take a look here. It was the finest tip, and it is a 0.7 millimeter. Um, and it kind of has a tip similar to a fine point Sharpie if you're familiar with that, and it did really well for fine detail work, and I'll be showing you that here in a moment. I'm just going to let you watch me finish painting this, and then I'll be back to talk about the outlining process. Okay, so here is that Posca pen that I ordered. Highly recommend these. If you haven't used the Posca pens, they are acrylic paint markers, and they are absolutely wonderful. I use them for so many different things, but they work really well with acrylic paints because they are an acrylic paint just in pen form. And I'm going in to add the polka dots, and do a little more shading. So I'm going to outline the entire thing with the pen there, and then just go around and really push some of those dark shadowed areas with that over where I used the Payne's gray, and really get a lot of nice contrast. This project was so much fun to do, and I just know that the recipient is going to absolutely love it. Um, like I said, it's a Christmas gift, so I had to wait to put out this video until afterwards. Hope you all had a nice holiday, those of you that celebrate, by the way. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and the possibilities are endless with the air dry clay. You know, if you can draw it, you can make it, and I'm here to show you how. Okay, so now everything has dried, and I am going in with some gloss varnish from Liquitex. Again, there will be a link to that. I ended up putting on 3 coats of that because I want to make sure it is nice and sealed, because this is going to be a functional item. I want to make sure that, you know, if it does get wet or anything, most likely being in a kitchen, that it's not going to get destroyed. So I'm putting 3 coats on, and once I attach the magnet in the background, I'm also going to put a couple coats on around that. Now, I didn't want to put that on before the magnet because I wanted the magnet to be adhered directly to the piece and not have that layer of varnish in between the two, because I thought that might be a weak point where the adhesive would fail. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm sure some of you have used this before. I did put out another air dry clay video right around Thanksgiving. I'll put a link to that at the end of the video if you want to check that out. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining me again today, and I will be back here again next Friday at 10 a.m. with another video. I hope you all have a great week.